Hey everybody, it's Professor Ellis, and I'm here for week 10 of Technical Writing, English 2575. I hope everyone's doing well, that you're healthy, that you and your families are safe right now. Just want to encourage everybody again, as always, if you get a chance to get vaccinated, please jump on it, get that done. I'm still trying to get an appointment. I'm certainly going to get vaccinated as soon as I can. But in the meantime, still wear your mask, try to maintain social distancing protocols, do everything that you can to protect yourselves and your families right now so that we can try to get through this pandemic as quickly as possible and get back to some sense of normalcy. And above all, that we make it through this as healthy as we possibly can be. So do hang in there. And also know that this is something that you're not going through alone. This is something that we're all going through together. And of course, I think it should go without saying that if anybody is really stressed out, if other things going on besides what goes on in our class is affecting your performance in our class, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. You got my email address, jellis@citytech.cuny.edu. Remember, my office hours are on Wednesdays from 3 until 5 p.m. on Google Hangout. The link is on our syllabus on the OpenLab site. And if you can't come during that time and you need to talk to me about something, just send me an email letting me know what your availability is, and we'll work together to figure out a time that works for both of our schedules so that we can meet. I don't mind doing that at all. I can't stress that enough. But if you do need to talk outside of office hours, just do that so that we can figure that out and meet. So with this week, we're getting closer now toward the end of the semester with week 10, and now we're going to be getting really into the collaborative team-based project. But before we can do that, we've got to take care of the instruction manual. That was your last individual, big individual assignment in the class. I'm going to show you in a moment how to get that submitted. Then we're going to talk about establishing team communication and different types of collaboration tools that you can use to facilitate you working together with a team asynchronously, meaning not all at the same time, because you all probably have different schedules. When you can, work together synchronously, meaning at the same time. But when that doesn't work out, asynchronously is the way we got to do it, just the same way that we lead our class. And then we're going to talk about the research report, which is, again, the main part of the project. And this week you're going to have some homework that's going to involve you and your team deciding on which project amongst all the different brainstorming ideas you came up with in this previous week's weekly writing assignment. You're going to choose from one of those. You might shape it, you might change it a little bit depending on your discussions, that's fine. But then you're going to be reporting that to me as a part of this week's weekly writing assignment. As you see here, choose your project topic, write a short memo in your Google Drive shared folder, which I'll show you how to set up. And then all team members need to copy and paste that memo into this week's weekly writing assignment. And then some of your other homework is going to be actually beginning this research. So it is important foundational work that needs to get done right now. But as much as you can push ahead, I want you to be doing that with the research part of the research report, which again is the anchor, the foundation for everything in the collaborative team-based project. Alright, so first off, submit instruction manual. So as I have talked about in previous lectures, this is giving you some practice with not only publishing your work that you write in Google Drive as a website so that anybody can access it online via a link. So it's like you're publishing a website very easily, very quickly this way. And having access to this kind of tool will be something that I think that you might find other ways to take advantage of in your professional as well as your personal life. There's a lot of different ways you can use this for your own purposes. Again, like I mentioned very early in the semester, that quote from William Gibson, "The street finds its own use for things," meaning we can think and use our tools how we please, not necessarily the way they've been designed to be used, that we can come up with new ways to use them. So, with that being said, let's just go over again how you actually publish your instruction manual to the web, because that's the first part of turning in your instruction manual for me to grade it and apply those points to your grade point average in the class. So here I have the How to Assemble a Skateboard example instruction manual that I showed you last time. And it's got, I'm looking over, it's got all my different sections. It has my illustrations that I made myself. Again, remember those illustrations, they need to be done by you, except for screenshots for those of you working with like software, for example. Pictures I made myself, and then step by step, including all that stuff. So I'm happy with the way it looks. So first off, I need to publish it to the web by going to the File menu in Google Docs, and then go down to click on Publish to the Web. Now, if you haven't started publishing it yet, you're going to get this screen right here. And basically all you got to do is click on Publish. Are you sure you want to publish this selection? Click OK. You have this link here, and so all you got to do is right click and choose to copy it, or you can press Command C on a Mac or Control C on a PC to copy that link to your clipboard so you have access to it. Now after you've done that, the next step is to go over to the OpenLab site for our class. And so I'm going to open, this is going to be section OL83. The same is true for OL88. You go to your respective class's OpenLab site. And what you want to do first off is mouse over this plus sign at the top. Make sure, of course, you're logged in. You see here it has my name. Hi, Jason Ellis. It will say hi and your name right there. So you're logged in, you're at our OpenLab's course site. You mouse over the plus sign and click on Post one time to create a new post. So again, this is giving you some practice with creating and publishing content using a WordPress-based website. In this case, OpenLab. Again, all of these things that I'm asking you to do are things that you can report. You know how to do on a resume, on LinkedIn.com. And of course, I'm teaching you ways that you might be able to share some of your work, whether it be work in our class or another class, so that you can include them on a resume, on LinkedIn.com, etc. I mean, just think, you can take something that you made like in a CST class, import it over into Google Docs, publish it as a website, and then take that link and pop it over into your LinkedIn.com profile and like type up a little paragraph about what that project was about. I mean, how cool is that? That like, you know, just with a few clicks basically, you've published your work online and you've linked to it from your LinkedIn.com profile so that not only like prospective employers will see it, but headhunters, other people in your profession. It's a way for you to impress people. Not only by showing that you know how to use these different tools and technologies, but that you're leveraging them for your purposes. Again, the street finds its own use for things. That's what we all can do with these tools. Alright, so getting back to turning in your instruction manual. So you can see here I've started my new post. I moused over the plus and then clicked on Post. Well, the very first thing I want you to do before you type anything over here, okay, over here on the right, scroll down to Categories, and underneath Student Projects, make sure you put a check next to 1500 word instruction manual. That's the very first thing you do. That way it categorizes your work so that I can automatically see that your work is turned in the right place and that it's ordered with all the other projects that folks are turning in. So it's something separate from like my lectures. It's separate from your 500 word summary, your 750 word expanded definition, etc. So you put a check next to 1500 word instruction manual. Then remember, over here on the left, you have these two big areas. First is add title. You see it's like big type, right? And underneath that is start writing or type to choose a block. Now, what's important to remember is that the title should be like a quick synopsis of what this post is about. Some folks, I think, may have a little misunderstanding with what the title's purpose is, or where you begin writing on this. So the title, this is a separate line from everything else that follows down here. So in the title, what I'd like you to do is, how about we'll start off by writing So what I'd like you to do is begin with your name, so your first and last name, and then an apostrophe S. You know, my name ends in an S, so all I need is an apostrophe. But like, let's say my name ends in my wife's last name, Lynn. So Jason Lynn's, and then say instruction manual for, and then what the instruction manual is about, right? So if I'd written about something else, I might say instruction manual for assembling a personal computer, or instruction manual for configuring Apple Xcode, right? Now you might have come up with, like, say, a user's manual. You might have come up with a training manual based on the different types of documents that we discussed earlier in the semester for this project. Whatever that might be, that's what you should put here as the type of manual that you created. But in most cases, it's going to be an instructional manual. You're teaching people how to do certain steps to accomplish a task. So instruction manual for, and then whatever it is that your instruction manual is about. Could be about using like a digital SLR camera, or how to configure a wireless router. Whatever it might have been that you wrote about, that's what you want to put there. And so that's your title. That's all you got to do for the title. And actually you're almost like home free, because there's only one more sentence that you need to write for turning in your instruction manual. So I got my title, Jason Lynn's Instruction Manual for Configuring Apple Xcode, and then click down here in the content section. The content section is like where you would put your essay. It's where like the actual story goes. If we're thinking of like, you know, a newspaper story, like you got your title and then you have content underneath it. Same deal. So we have our title, click underneath it down here so we have a blinking cursor, and let's write something like, for this project I wrote an instructional manual for configuring Apple Xcode. Notice I may be incorrect there, but make sure that you're using the right kind of capitalization for whatever product that you're talking about. So like, for example, if I'm talking about like an Apple instruction manual for configuring like a device, I might say configuring an Apple iPhone. You notice I have the lowercase I, then the capital P, because that's the spelling that they use for that product. You use the same type of capitalization spelling as appropriate. So whatever your project is, just say simply, for this project, comma. This is an introductory clause, so that's like letting me know what it is you're talking about, comma, space, I, meaning you, wrote an instructional manual, again just kind of copying what we have in the title, an instructional manual for configuring an Apple iPhone, or whatever it is. And in my case specifically, is configuring constructing or assembling a skateboard. So we have that, and what I want you to do is highlight all that text from instructional manual for configuring whatever it is up until you get to the period. See, the period's not actually highlighted. I've only highlighted the text. But you know, that text is really my title, isn't it? Except for my name. Instructional manual for configuring Apple X code, instructional manual for configuring. Let's change that back just so it makes sense. I don't want anybody to be wondering what the hell Professor Ellis is talking about here. Right? So highlight just that text, instructional manual for doing whatever it is that you're doing. And then after you've done that, you will click up here in this toolbar, and you see this little icon here. This looks like a chain link. Okay, so we're going to create a hypertext link. So click that icon one time, and then it gives you this box, and it says search or type URL. Well, what did we do a second ago? We already copied the link to your instruction manual that you published to the web using Google Docs. So all I got to do is press Control V or Command V, or you can right click and choose paste, right? We're just going to paste the link into that little box, and then you see this return arrow right here. You need to click that in order to make that a hyperlink, or you can press enter on the keyboard, because you can see it looks exactly the same as the enter key, but I'm just going to click it. I know now that the link was created because it's underlined. So I have this underlined, and if I just click one time, part of the URL shows up right underneath it. That way I've confirmed that I added the hyperlink to the instruction manual that I published on the web using Google Docs. You want to do the same thing. Make sure that link shows like that. If it isn't underlined, right? If it looks like that, see there's no underline there, I click it, nothing happens, I know it didn't work. So just try it again. Just highlight just those words from instruction manual until the end of the sentence, click the link icon, paste. So I'm going to right click, I can paste, or I can press Control V or Command V, depending on a PC or a Mac, paste it, and then click that icon for enter. And now you see I have that underline, and I click it, I see I have the link. So that lets me know I did it right. You do the same thing and you'll know you did it right. So after you've done all that, you are ready to submit your assignment, because basically I'm going to look for this post, I'll click that link, and that link will take me to where you published your instruction manual online. And so I'll be looking at what it looks like as a published website. And that's what I'll be evaluating in order to give you a grade on the assignment. See if all the right parts are there, if the directions make sense, if you included any sources, that they're cited properly, etc. So after you've done that, you just click on Publish in the upper right hand corner, and then click Publish again when that comes up. It just takes a second. I'm actually going to click it. You're all probably going to get an email saying that I published something. And then once that's done, you'll see that the title of your work is now live. Alright, so let's take that off because I don't want anybody getting confused by that thing being on here. So let's go, I'm going to go into all posts. You're going to see all the different posts there, and I'm going to move this guy to the trash, and it'll disappear. It's gone. And after you've done that, if you want to double check to make sure your work is online, you can click on Student Projects over on the left hand side, and then click 1500 word instruction manual. And once we get some students' projects turned in, you're going to see them all listed there. That's all you got to do. Easy as that. Now, as you're turning these in, if you run into some problems, any weird error messages, etc., make sure you reach out to me, and we'll take a look at it. And if you, of course, see those types of things, you can take a screenshot. You can tell me what kind of error message you receive, so that I know more in order to help you with whatever's going on. See, I got this window a little too... There we go. All right, so that's the first thing off our list. Submit instruction manual. So we got that done. Now let's talk a little bit about team communication and collaboration tools. So as I mentioned before, it's absolutely imperative that each team, especially now that the teams are larger because you've had some students for a variety of reasons leave the class in both sections, I've had to reassign some folks. And you saw that last week when I sent out the peer review emails for the instruction manual. And it was your responsibility, for those of you that find yourself in a new team, because you looked at all of the who it was actually sent to, right? And you saw, oh, I recognize these names but not these other names. That means like you need to introduce yourself to the new team members, and then those of you that are new to a team, you should introduce yourself to your new teammates. Because these are the folks that you're going to be working with, not just on peer review for the instruction manual, but also for completing the collaborative team-based project, which is the biggest part of everybody's grade in the class. So some of the things like that, I think for the most part, most teams are okay with this. But if you're still not sure about what to do, first off, you can use email for a lot of your team communication. Remember to add everybody's names to the to box. And whenever you receive email from your teammates, remember to click reply all. That way it goes to everybody. Don't forget that, because if you just hit reply, it only goes to the one person that actually sent the message in the first place, not to everyone else. So always click reply all with team-based communications. Now, in addition to email, you should set up a secondary communication channel. It could be that you use text messaging. You can make phone calls to one another. Or you can use collaborative team-based platforms that help facilitate collaborative work. I think some teams are already using like Discord, for example. Discord is a type of collaboration software that enables essentially like messaging. It's kind of like a message board, but it's only for the particular team doing a particular project. So it's not like everybody in the world can see it. Only your team is able to read the messages. So it's private in that regard. Similarly, there's Slack. Slack is a very popular one. What's cool about Discord and Slack is not only can you use it on a computer through a web browser, but there's also apps that you can install on your phone or your tablet, which might be more convenient for some folks. There's also Microsoft Teams, which we have available for free through CUNY. So this is another platform very much like Discord and Slack that allows you to create a project, and within that project you add team members, and only the team members can see those communications. And so it's absolutely important you find one of these, or there's a lot of other things you can use. You use WhatsApp, you can use Facebook Messenger. You talk to your team and find out what everybody's on or what they're comfortable using, and you pick one. Now through this process, this is something that everybody should be on board with, because you can't have like one team member say like, I can't do that. If that's the case, you need to find out what that team member can do and pick something that accommodates that person as well as the rest of the team. And if you have to imagine, like when you're in the workplace working on a team, your manager tells you and 5 other people to work together, you got to make that work, because everyone's job essentially is on the line about whether you're successful or not. It's not like you can just say, oh, we're not going to worry about this one person because, if they don't contribute, well, they'll get fired. You can imagine most managers are not too keen if team members conspire to sideline one person. You need to work together, because in the workplace what matters is producing deliverables that help the work of the company get done. And so it's not necessarily about like, who is the best contributor, who is the brightest person on the team, who was the leader of the team. What matters is that the deliverable gets created and gets handed off to whoever it needs to get handed off to. And that's the kind of idea that I want to instill in each of you within your team to be focused on, that what matters is getting the project done. Now, there's going to be an opportunity for everyone to report not only on what you did individually, but also to let me know if there are certain team members that weren't contributing, or if there were problems with communication or problems with agreeing, problems with discussion, whatever that might be. That's those individual reports that you're going to give me at the very end of the semester. But ideally, all team members need to work together on this and pull equal weight in order to get the project done. Because when you're in the workplace, that's what's really going to matter. Now, obviously, this is kind of like a safe space or class for you to practice this kind of work, because some of you may not have had to do this before, and I understand that. But I also understand that from my own experience, the best way of being able to work with others is simply to get practice working with other people. You begin picking up heuristics, shortcuts, ways of working with other people that I could give you a textbook reading about how to work with other people, but until you're actually in a group and having to discuss things together, make decisions together, accomplish delegated tasks together, it's all academic. What really matters is you getting your hands dirty and working on a project with other people. And so that's what we're going to be doing with this. Now, that being said, if at any point there are any problems whatsoever with the team dynamic, you need to reach out to me. You can reach out to me as a team, or as a couple of people in the team, or individually. But because we're not in a classroom together, I'm not able to look over your shoulder the same way that I could when we were working together in the classroom. And you can imagine in the classroom, I would go around and see what everybody's up to. But because we're working asynchronously here, and also because while I am setting certain parameters for some of the ways that you're going to be working together, like using Google Drive, which I'm going to show you in a minute, as far as your communications are concerned, I want to be more respectful to you all about where and how it's most convenient for you to communicate with your team. Because I have found in last semester, each team used a totally different way of communicating with each other. And so if I had said you have to use this way, that might have hindered some of those projects, because that might not have been as convenient. So I want you as a team to decide on how to communicate outside of email in order to accommodate everybody's ability to talk, to contribute, and to do the work that needs to get done together. So the communication thing, that is something you have to decide as a team. Now, it's certainly okay within a team if somebody wants to take point on particular parts of the project, whether it be one person to take point on setting up your Discord server, or one person to take point on setting up Slack for your team. If you want one person to take point in terms of coordinating the work with all the different members, kind of like a leader, that's also okay. But there's also equally fine if folks want to kind of have just a bunch of sub-leaders, leaders that take on different aspects of the project, and not having one person overarching. Because the teams are small, this can work pretty well, I think, in some cases. But I also know that some folks really need someone to kind of keep an eye on things and to follow up on people's progress. So I want you as a team to discuss how things might work best for you, whether you want to have one person to be in a sense a leader and keeping track and following up with people on things, or if you as a team want to hold each other accountable and not necessarily have a single leader. Because even if you were to have a single leader, and you notice I keep putting these air quotes up, the reason I do that is I don't want to see a leader in a team be someone like Steve Jobs, who is more like a tyrant and a dictator, rather than someone who is just simply facilitating the work of the team to get done and to make sure that people are following up and completing tasks that need to get done. That's all that a leader needs to do as far as our project is concerned. We don't need a visionary necessarily for these projects that we're contributing to. All right, that being said, so we got a lot of different options for communicating. Now, there's going to be some times that you need to work synchronously, whether as the whole team to get together and brainstorm things, like right now maybe, for choosing your topic. In that case, I would recommend using a tool like doodle.com that I have here on the screen right now. Doodle is really great for picking meeting times for a group of people. And I'm going to show you how it works, because another thing that's great about it is you don't have to make an account to use it. You can just create a doodle and send it out to your team to respond to. So you go to doodle.com and you click on create a doodle in the upper right hand corner. And it's going to ask, like, what's the location? We'll just say, you know, technical writing team meeting. Don't have to worry about location, don't have to add a note, just continue. Now here is where the magic begins to happen. So you see there's dates and there's times. Well, what the person in your team who sets up the doodle should do, so you get one person in your team to say, okay, I'll set up the doodle and email it to everybody. What you do is that person should go through, like, say, the next week. Okay, so like we'll say from Wednesday until the next Wednesday, and pick, like, say, 1 hour installments when they're available. So, like, let's say you have a class from 3 to 4 on Wednesday. Well, you don't want to pick that, right? You skip over that. And so I got a bunch of times in there for Wednesday. And let's say Thursday's your work day. So you can't pick Thursday. That's out. And what we're doing is letting that first person choose the basis for all the other times that are going to be available for other people in the team. And you can click and drag these around if they don't go exactly where you want them to. See? And then to go over to the next week, you see this little arrow guy up here. I'm just going to click it, and that takes me to the next week. And so I can put in some times, like, say, for Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. So I put in times like for 1 week worth of days. After I've done that, I click on continue. And then I'm just going to leave everything at default and then click continue again. You want to put in your name, whoever set this thing up, and put in the email address. So in this case, jls@citytechnical.edu for me. And then I click finish. And what you do is you want to copy, click on copy here, this link. And then start an email that goes to all your teammates, or start a message if you're already set up on Discord or Slack or Microsoft Teams or something else, text messaging, whatever. Copy that link and paste it into a message to all your other team members. Now, what your team members will see is something like this. And they're going to be able to add their name. There's going to be a blank line here for them to type in their name, and they put a check mark next to each time that they're available. So if they're available Wednesday from 10 until 11, they check that. If they're available on, say, Friday from 9 to 10, they check that. And whoever set this up should come back to this page occasionally. It's going to be in your messages or in your email. So you just click that link and it takes you back here. And you'll be able to see once all your teammates have filled out the doodle poll, and it's going to show you which times and days have the most coverage. Like, when can you get the most members of your team together at one time? You pick that time and email everyone, say, hey, everybody, Thursday at 5 o'clock, everybody is free. Let's meet then. And then whoever, however you guys want to get together to meet, you could set up like, a Zoom meeting, because with a free Zoom account, you can set up a 40-minute meeting, right, for free. You don't have to pay anything. If you want to use Google Hangouts, like I use for our weekly office hours, you could use your own Google. You can create a new Google Hangout for you guys to use during whatever time you pick, and just make sure you message it out so that everybody knows what day, what time, and what medium, whether it be like something you're using inside Discord, Slack, Microsoft Teams, etc., or Zoom or Google Hangouts, etc. And then that way you can coordinate when you do need to create a synchronous meeting time for everyone to come together. And again, you don't have to do this for all your team meetings, because once you've decided on your project, you can begin using your messaging platform, Discord, Slack, etc., as a way to talk about the project, for people to offer up like, I can do this, or why don't you do that, and then get agreement on things in writing, so that you're not in messaging, rather than having to always talk together. So what I'm suggesting is like a combination of meeting synchronously to decide important things, to talk when you really need more bandwidth to decide things, but then also use email, text messaging, and messaging on Discord, Slack, etc., as a way of maybe deciding smaller things. But Doodle is a good way to set up your synchronous meeting times. And this week you probably do want to set up a synchronous time to discuss what you're going to be choosing for your project. Because as you remember, for last week's weekly writing assignment, you were supposed to brainstorm some ideas for what your team can choose from for your collaborative team-based project. So I'll get ahead of myself a little bit, and again, talking about homework, is that you need to meet together, whether it be synchronously or asynchronously, talk about all the different options from your brainstorming weekly writing assignments last week, and maybe through your discussions you pick one of those, or you might even generate more ideas based on what everybody presented as a possibility, in which you choose something else. But the bottom line this week is you need to pick one project, one scientific or technological problem, again, that's relevant to your studies and your future careers. So again, for everyone in the class, I don't, even though I know COVID-19 is obviously a big deal, that shouldn't be the topic of your scientific or technical problem, because nobody in the class, as far as I know, is pre-med or going into research for epidemiology or virology, etc. But because you are all into IT, computer science, electrical engineering, you can, if you want, go in and choose a project that's tangentially connected to COVID-19, such as monitoring or visualization problems relating to the virus. Being able to report to people infection rates in certain areas or vaccination rates in areas. Or maybe even for electrical engineering, different types of testing technologies that are used. And then how to maybe scale them up, or how to collect all that data in consolidated and useful way. So I mean, there are ways to tackle the problem, but make sure that it's a relevant problem, and that's technical or scientific, that you choose for the project, and it needs to be decided on by your team together. Now for the weekly writing assignment, you're going to be, after you've chosen your project, what you're going to work on, you need to write a short memo to memorialize it, to essentially create a record of it, and to tell me a little bit about your thinking that's gone into it, how you decided it, etc. And that's going to relate to the second part of your collaboration, which is to use Google Drive for writing, collecting research, and for creating some of the other deliverables that you're going to need for the whole collaborative project. So To do that, let me show you how to set up your shared Google Drive folder where all your work needs to go for the project. And what, also one of the neat things about using, like, say, Discord, Slack, Microsoft Teams, etc., is that most of these platforms, you can add links from your Google Drive for all the different files into messages directly. That because everyone is going to be added in your team to your Google Drive folder, they'll be able to access them very easily and quickly. Just click a link and it's open. But you can also go to drive.google.com, as I've done here, drive.google.com, log in, and you're going to have access to all the files that you're working on together in your team. Alright, so here I am in my Google Drive, and what you want to do first off, one team member is maybe the person that's taking point on sending around the doodle for your first synchronous meeting. It could be someone else that has experience with this. It doesn't matter. But what you'll do first off is that person is going to click on New and then click on Folder. Create a new folder. And let's call this Collaborative Project. All right, easy enough. And then click Create. Now, after I've created this Collaborative Project folder, I'm going to choose to right-click on it, and you can see I have a bunch of different options here. But what I want to click on is this one with the little person and a plus sign, meaning Share. Now, before we can get to this next step, whoever's doing this needs to reach out to all the other team members and ask them what is your Google or Gmail account that you want to use on the project. So whatever, you need to collect all these different Gmail accounts from your team members. You get one from every team member and then populate them here. I know that you all have a Gmail account associated with Google Docs that you use for making your instruction manual. So everybody should already have one of these set up. It can be your personal account or it can be one that you may just use with our class. I don't care. The main thing is that you have one that you can use. So this person that's setting up this shared folder collects all those Gmail account email addresses and then adds them one by one. Yes, I don't want to type in because I don't want to share people's email addresses that may not want it shared. But you type them in, you can separate them by commas or by spaces, and then you're going to see the people added down here below. And then after you have added those people, you'll want to click on Done. And actually, let's see if I can share this with myself. Here we go. So I use one of my personal email accounts I have associated with a different Google account. After I've done that, I've typed in all the different names. It'll default to editor for the members, and that's what you want. Viewer and commenter don't have many privileges, but editor gives all the privileges everyone needs. Leave notify people checked, and then in message, just write a short message letting people know what the hell this is about. Professor Ellis is really giving us a hard time and telling us to set up this Google folder for our collaborative project. Here it is. Type that in and then click Send. And then each person will get a message in their Google Drive account when they log in saying, do you accept this invitation? And you'll of course click yes, and then you'll have a new folder added, and it's going to look like one of these. See these folders here with a little person, 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 no person? These person ones, these are all shared folders. And so your collaborative project will appear in this list, one of those with a little person on top of it. And when you go into it, well, right now there's nothing there. But this folder is where I want your team to put all of the files related to the project. Now, the very first file that you're going to be adding to this, you can see here I'm going to be putting in this week's weekly writing assignment. And where is that weekly writing assignment? It is right here, week 10. So what you're going to do is one team member should create a Google Doc in the shared folder. In this document, write a brief memo with date subject, so that the memo header at the top, and then in the content area underneath, write a few sentences describing the scientific or technical problem that you will research for your collaborative project. Include any information about how your deliberations and discussion might have focused your topic from what one of your team members presented in the brainstorming exercise. So you talk about all the different possibilities, you choose one of those, or you take those ideas and maybe do something else, which is also okay. It doesn't have to be bound just to the brainstorming ideas, but it does have to be a technical or scientific problem related to your major or to your future careers, okay? To make sure that you're staying on point with that. Now, if I go back over to Google Drive, I've lost it now. So here I am in Google Drive. You can see here I'm in the collaborative project folder that I've shared with my team members. One person needs to click New and choose Google Docs. Now this Google Doc is going to be inside that folder, which means everybody with access to it can open this and look at it simultaneously. And in fact, all the other team members may be looking at it at the same time as you will be listed right here. There's a little icon from each of them. And you're going to see their name next to the cursor where it's blinking. And everybody can write in this document at the same time if, for this particular part of the project you can do that, but it's not a requirement. If you want to all be talking together and one person say, okay, let me go ahead and type this up while we're talking in our meeting that we set up with Doodle today. So let's give this thing a title. This is just for your reference so you know what the hell this thing is in your Google Drive folder. So why don't we say project topic memo. That's descriptive. It's telling me that this is the project topic that you decided, and it's the memo that you write it into. To, from, date, subject. See, I do all caps for those guys. Skip down, and this is where our team decided, our team selected to focus our collaborative project on the scientific problem of, let's do the technical problem of, what's a technical problem that we are having here? How about network operations center cooling? That's a technical problem. You got racks of servers producing a lot of heat. You got to take that heat out somewhere, otherwise you're going to kill all those machines. So you choose what your topic is, and then you'll write a couple to a few sentences about the problem, possible solutions, and any other information that lets Professor Ellis know or understand the discussion that went into this choice. Okay, so very short, just a paragraph is all you're going to write. To, that's Professor Ellis. From, make sure that you include all team members' first and last names. Okay, just separate them by commas, and then whoever's last, comma, and whoever the last member is. Alphabetize them by last name. That way there's no favoritism for who is going first. Date, subject, what did I put for the subject? Collaborative, project, topic. All right, so once you've written this thing out, which shouldn't take very long after you've decided on your topic, and everybody can contribute to this, because this is in that folder, anybody that's a member of the folder can open this file, make changes to it, and the thing to remember is that you should not individually take ownership of the writing. If writing needs to be improved on or corrected or made right or added to, subtracted, etc., as long as you got a good reason for what you've done, then it's perfectly fine for you all to work on these things together. One of the nice things about Google Drive and all the different technologies built into it, like Google Docs, Slides, etc., is that it also includes versioning. So it's possible to always go back to an earlier version of the file if an edit's made that maybe someone disagrees with. And I'll talk about that in a future lecture. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds on this just right now as you're getting started. But this file, rest assured again, is going to be in your shared folder. So I'm going to close that, and you can see I'm back in my collaborative project folder, and here's that one file. And that one file can be opened and edited by everybody in the team. So you can see that the next part of this week's weekly writing assignment is each team member should copy and paste your completed memo into a comment made to this weekly writing assignment post. This demonstrates that all team members can access your shared Google Drive folder and its files. Just let me know that you're all able to use Google Drive and your shared documents in that folder. So everybody needs to open it. You can select all, press Control A or Command A on a Mac. That way selects all. You can right click and choose to copy, or you can go to Edit and Copy, or you can press Control C or Command C on a Mac, copy it, and then you're going to go back over to this post on OpenLab, click on the title for the weekly writing assignment, scroll down to the comment box, paste the memo into the comment box, and then click Post Comment. Everybody in the team needs to do that. Again, I know it sounds like I got dementia or something, I'm repeating myself so much, but one of the key things I've noticed, like with some folks, maybe skipping over parts of the lecture, may not be listening to everything, so I want to repeat myself to make sure everybody's on the same page on this, because while certainly everything that came before mattered, right now I can't stress enough how much your involvement and engagement in the class matters now with these team-based projects. Because before, with individual projects, if you screwed up, it's only on you. But now, a team of people are depending on you to contribute to this overall project that you're working on together. So now is not the time to slip up. Now is not the time not to pay attention, not engage. Now is the time to pick up your game and make sure that you're contributing to your team's overall success. So again, all team members copy and paste that memo into a comment on this week's weekly writing assignment for week 10. It shows me that you all can access that shared folder. Now, the other part of the homework that I want you all to be doing is, like, after you've decided on your topic, you should all delegate different resources that you will look in to find source material that you can learn from, that you can cite and quote from in your research report. And so for those purposes, you can see here I give the example, delegate one resource to each team member. And so, like, one team member will go search for your topic in IEEE Explore. One team member should look in Academic Search Complete, etc. You can also look in General One File Gale, eBook Central, and others. And I give a link here that's going to take you to the subjects databases for all of the computing and networking and electrical engineering related databases. So you can have one person look in one of these that is most relevant. Like eMarketer, depending on what you're working on, you don't need to go there. Archive might have some stuff, but one of the things about this is also a pre-publishing platform, right? So not everything's been vetted yet. That's why I suggest places that are already published research, like Academic Search Complete, Applied Science and Technology Source, eBook Central would be books that are published, Gale Virtual Reference Library, like encyclopedias, General One File Gale, IEEE Explore, Science Direct, and also Science Magazine is fair game. Springer Link ebooks, more ebooks that you have access to, Springer Link eJournals, and then Wiley Online. So these are, you can have one person look at one of these, but you should all decide on, like, make sure you all know the right topic that you're looking for. You can also share keywords that you're trying to plug into the databases as a part of your research. And then make sure that everything that you find that might be beneficial for the team, you want to keep a citation for. You want to keep a link to it so that you can share that link with your team members so that they can look at the stuff as well. Okay? It's not just like you're doing like this little part. Everybody needs to learn the basics of what it is you're writing about so that you're going to be able to talk about it intelligently, compare notes, and then strategize how to approach writing your report. Which brings us to the last thing. So you're going to begin that research, and the final thing I wanted to mention today is beginning the document that you can use for writing your research report and also compiling your the research that goes into it. I think it's okay to use the same document for this, but if you want to have two separate documents, one for writing the report and one for compiling your research, you can also do that. And why don't I just show you that as an example? But again, I'm not going to be looking at this to decide you're doing it right or wrong. You as a team need to decide what works best for you all and your workflow. Workflow is like, the steps that you use to do your work. And the way you decide to create a workflow may be different than the way that I would suggest doing it. So I'm going to first off create a new Google Doc. And I'm going to call this one Research Document for Research Report. Okay. I'm going to click back to my tab for the Google on Google Drive. You see that I've added that document is there now, Research Document for Research Report. And then I'm going to click New again and choose Google Doc. So I'm making my third document now in this folder. And why don't I call this one just Research Report? So what I've done, and it'll pop up here in a second, so the research report document, that's where I'm actually going to do my writing for the research report. My research will go into it, but just right now, to help compile the research that everybody's doing in different places, I'm going to use this document, Research Document for Research Report. So this is my research document for research report. One way to set this up is to set it up using different students' names as like a place where you do your work, and keep it kind of separate from everyone else, so like everybody can read it, but everybody can also recognize like who is contributing to it, who's doing a lot of research, who's just doing a little, etc. So for example, why don't I'll say, like, we got Anakin, Obi-Wan, Han, Chewy, Boba. All right, so I got these different students. I'm using real student names here. And what I'm going to do is, why don't I put these on separate pages? So I got Anakin on the first page. I'm going to insert, break, page break. Obi-Wan's on second page. Click on Han, insert, break, page break. He's on third page. Chewie's going to be on the fourth page. Break, page break. And then Boba's going to be on the last page. So Boba knows, okay, I need to go to the last page, and I'm going to copy and paste my research here. Quotes should be in quotation marks. That way you always know that you're taking that text from somewhere else. And it should always be followed by a parenthetical citation. And then it should be followed by bibliographic entry. Okay, bibliographic entry. And again, we're using NAPA format, right? So everything that you find somewhere else should include this kind of information, but also, most importantly perhaps, include a link to the source. That way your teammates can just click the link and download the PDF or go to that entry in the database to read the research that you've done. So we got Boba has a page, Chewie has a page, Han has a page, Obi-Wan has a page, and then Anakin has a page. And this would be what I use for compiling all my research. Everybody can read what everybody else has found, and then you together can strategize about what to use in different parts of the research report. Because you got to learn about these topics before you can actually begin writing about them. Now, for your research, it needs to be library based. It needs to come through the databases. It needs to be things that come from, like, say, newspapers, real newspapers, not like rando websites. But you can use different websites to help enrich your research, to help guide you to places. Use Wikipedia to read up on the topic, just to learn something. Look at those sources that they have at the bottom of a Wikipedia page that may lead you to things that you can find in the library databases. You can also go to scholar.google.com, which is a good resource for finding sources that you can, again, find through the library. So don't think you can't look and learn from other places, but what you're citing needs to be things that are reputable. They need to be vetted. They need to be verified. That means that someone that knows a lot about these topics you're researching has looked at it and said, yes, this is accurate information. You can rely on it. You can take it to the bank. That's the thing. But whenever you go to like a rando website, who wrote that information? What is the purpose behind why they published it? In a lot of cases, did they scrape that information from another source and not attribute it? I can tell you from personal experience, my own website, dynamicsubspace.net, there are thousands of copies of it online right now because different people, very irreputable people, steal my writing, pop it onto their websites, put a bunch of ads on the page, and then make money off of what I wrote after they've taken my name off of it. You can imagine this also happens for research. This also happens for things that get published on school websites, etc. So the thing is, like, you need to know where this information is coming from. When it comes from a library database, you know that it's already been verified by our librarians and by other professionals in the field to say that this is trustworthy. This is something that we can you learn something from, that is truthful information, that is verified information. All right, so this is like you creating a document for your research, to collect all your research together. But now, what about the actual report itself? So that's what this research report document can be for. And this is where you are actually going to write eventually what you will publish for the collaborative team-based project. Now, what you'll find for this week's lecture, I'm including an outline. And what you can do to start this research report document is go to this week's lecture post and copy this pre-formatted text here. And then just simply paste it into your research report document. And this gives you a basic outline of what different parts your research report should include. You can see introduction. This is where you define your topic and why your report is important. Like, why is it significant? Why should we listen to what you have to say? What is it you're trying to accomplish? The objectives of the research. What were you attempting to do through this report and through the research that you've done? The method. What methodology did you use? And this is where you talk about what research you did, what databases you used, what types of research resources were you using, which ones were you focusing on. And so this is basically you reporting back the kinds of research that you did so that we can say, like, this is sound research. You can make that determination. And then you can see there's these different sections: results, discussion, conclusion. Now, in some reports that students have written, occasionally it's okay to combine some of these things, okay? As you'll see that when we're writing other types of essays, usually they are combined. But when you're writing a formal research report, it's best to tease these things apart, meaning to, like, you put the particular information in the right place so that it's easily accessible to the reader, a professional, that would be looking at a report like this. Because there are certain expectations on their part about what a report ought to look like and where the information should be in that report. So in the first part here, results, what did you find in your research? This would be the facts. These would be quotes. These would be figures, maybe interviews, maybe surveys. I mean, I didn't go into a lot of detail on this, but depending on what your problem is that you're researching, you can also conduct your own research, what's called primary research, where you interview people that may be affected by the problem or that have knowledge of how to fix the problem. You can interview people, and that would count as a very powerful primary source. You can also conduct surveys, in which case you make a survey for a given audience and ask them some questions. So, like, for example, if you're doing, like, say, a research report, like, say, on problems with 5G coverage, right? Well, you might want to do a survey amongst, like, maybe your people that live in your neighborhood, or maybe amongst family and friends in the 5 boroughs. Like, what type of network do they connect to now? Are they on 4G? Do some of them use 5G? As a way of, like, looking at how distributed access is to that particular network that you're going to be writing about. Just an idea. Now, in the discussion section, this is where you talk about how you interpret your results. So the results, you present the facts, and the discussion is where you talk about what those facts mean. You tell a story about what the data tells us. And I mentioned here, results and discussion can be combined, but I highly recommend that you try to tease these things apart as much as you can. And then finally, for this, like, there's the conclusion. So what conclusions do you draw from your results and discussion? What is the significance of what you've discovered? So we're not yet saying what you're recommending people do to fix the problem. The conclusions are leading up to, like, what are the reality based on the facts and your discussion of the facts of what the problem is and what kind of possible solutions might there be. And then we get down to recommendations. What do you think should be done to solve the research problem based on the research that you did? This section is what all of your work is leading up to. And so this is where you're saying, well, based on the results we got and how we interpreted those results, these are and what conclusions we drew from those facts and that discussion, these are the recommendations that we make. And so that recommendation section, or like it can be point blank explaining how to fix this problem based on what you learned in your research. And then the final part you see is references. Now, you can add other parts to this document. Like you can have appendices, you can have glossary, all the different parts of documents that we talked about in previous assignments, you can also include in this. This is just a basic outline of the basic parts of a research report. Now, I've also given you some examples for research reports that you can take a look at. This is an explanation of research of report parts. This is from David McMurray's online technical writing textbook. Here are two examples of student work in my previous classes of research reports, one on issues with quantum computing and one research report on 5G. Take a look at those. See what other students have done at City Tech for this project. Not saying that these particular reports are like the outstanding best that you can imagine, but they do show all the basic parts. They go into sufficient detail. They're worth looking at. And then here's finally also from David McMurray's website, sample research report. Note the layout and design, I say. Okay. So these are things I want you to take a look at on your own later on. I've given you the basics now for, deciding on your project based on your brainstorming last week, and then this week having a meeting with your team. It can be a synchronous meeting that you talk together, or it can be an asynchronous meeting where you use like text messaging or one of the other communication platforms to discuss what topic you as a team want to pursue. Again, it has to be a scientific or technical problem relating to your majors and or your future careers. So it needs to kind of be representative of everybody in the team as much as possible. It may be hard to find something that fits everything perfectly, but try to find something that fits as good as you can. You're going to create that Google Drive folder for everybody to share. You're going to create this project topic memo once you've decided on your topic. Make sure all the team members' names are on it from the from area. And then everybody in the team needs to copy and paste this into this week's weekly writing assignment. After you've done that, the team needs to delegate who is going to be looking in which databases and begin diving in. And maybe as a part of your brainstorming discussions for the project, you might want to decide on a same set of keywords that help you do your research. Because one of the things, like I pointed out to some folks that did expanded definitions, like on say 5G. One of the problems when you're looking for 5G in databases is several-fold. First off, 5G often appears as like an enumerator for tables and for lists. So you find 5G in almost every document, and it's hard to find something that only applies to wireless technology. Also, a lot of search databases, the search function may have a minimal character requirement for a search term, which means that they may not search for things that are 1, 2, or 3 characters long. The search tools that are built into databases do not work the same way as Google. Okay, they work strictly like you garbage in, garbage out. It's like what you put in is what you're going to get out the other side. So you need to think of other keywords to combine with, like, say, the basic topic that you're looking at to make sure you're getting quality results. So for example, with 5G, you also want to include maybe wireless as one word. You might add telecommunications as another keyword. You could include maybe cell phone, cellular data. You can see what I'm getting at is that you need to add extra keywords that lead the search engine to find results most focused on what specifically you're interested in. The same is true for like quantum computing. I mean, if you just type in quantum computing, you're going to find like 500,000 different articles about it. You probably want to sort those by date, so you're looking at newer stuff rather than older stuff. Except, of course, like if you're talking, I mean, all your research reports are going to need to talk about like the history of whatever the problem is. We'll talk more about this next week, but you need to have that background in order to help your audience understand in your introduction what this problem is, where it came from, how it came to be. So it is important to look at older stuff, but if you're looking for the specifics of maybe a very contemporary, up-to-date problem, you need to be able to look at the freshest stuff for that. Also, there's different approaches to quantum computing in terms of like designs of machines. And so you may want to add a keyword that's relevant to that design in order to bring up the results that are most focused on what you're working on. And this is something I can help teams with. If you have questions about this, if you're not finding the research that might be relevant, let me know what you have been looking for, what keywords you're using, which databases have you looked in, and then I can take a look and get back to you with some more ideas about how to find results that are going to be fruitful for your searches. All right, so with this week, I think we've covered everything to get you started on the collaborative team-based project. Remember, you need to work together. You got to pull together to make this thing work. That's imperative. And any way that I can help you with that, please keep me in mind that you reach out to me at the first sign there might ever be a problem with your team. You got to let me know about it. Again, my email address, jellis@citytech.cuny.edu, and of course also my office hours Wednesdays 3 to 5 on Google Hangouts. But let's see, we've gone over how to submit your instruction manual, team communication stuff. We've talked about the research report. You know about your weekly writing assignment and your homework, which is to like begin that research after you've chosen your topic. And remember, with that weekly writing assignment, all team members need to copy and paste that memo into our OpenLab site so that I can see that you all have access to the same Google Drive folder. Again, that Google Drive folder needs to be shared with everybody in your team. Use the little share icon for that folder. That way everybody has access to every document that you make, and also everybody in the team can add documents. So one of the neat things is, like, if you find some like PDFs through the databases, why not drag them into the folder so that other people can just simply download them from your shared drive? You can do that. So if anybody has questions about any of this, about getting started with communicating with your team, etc., let me know. This is a challenging project. I'm not going to lie to you about that, but based on what students have told me before, this can be the most rewarding project, because not only does it allow you to really dive into something that might be meaningful and you really fuel your curiosity about your major and your career, but when you share this kind of work, like say on LinkedIn.com or on your resume, not only does it show that you know a lot of stuff about this topic you choose, but it shows that you can work with a team to do research, to write and communicate together, etc. It reflects super highly on you. So you want to all work together as best you can to make this work, because in the long run this will be super beneficial, not just for your experience having done this, but also for being able to show off that you can work on a team and get important work done. Okay? So if anybody's got anything else, remember, office hours Wednesday 3 to 5. You can email me, jellis@citytech.cuny.edu. And of course, if you can't meet during my office hours, let me know when you're available and we'll figure out a time that works for both of us. Okay? So good luck with this project, with getting in your instruction manuals. Anything comes up, let me know so that we can work together to make things right and to keep you on track. And you stay healthy, stay safe, and I will talk with you all again real soon. Take care.